Do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before. Do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
Well, g'day, folks. How are you? Back in the bus again tonight. We've had a little bit of rain today, but that didn't dissuade me, as you will see in the not-too-distant future. And we've had much destruction. I haven't got the photos out of the good camera yet, but have had much destruction around the property today. So if you've contacted me about doing a bit of work, rest assured somebody will be in touch in the not too distant future. It might be via email. It might be via a phone call. I believe there's a couple of people who've slipped phone numbers into emails. So we will endeavour to give you a ring and sort you out for some times and dates. However, there doesn't seem to be... we've got to be a bit careful if we're having people onto the property. So you've got to be fit and healthy. You will need to take notice of our security, or not security so much as safety advice. And if you're happy to do that, then it all should go quite well. In the process of chopping up a lot of stuff at the moment to make it actually handleable size. So a lot of the days are spent doing that at the moment. With a bit more to come over the next few days. We've also got some fencing that is required done here on the property. We've got all the gear to do it in one bloke. I'm not your fencer. I wouldn't know the first thing about it. However, I guess I can pull wire. But if you're a fencer or would be keen on doing that, contact me, carl@vofhq.com, and we'll see what we can do. The world is an amazingly silly place. And, well, we've all had examples of it over the last 4 or 5 years, I guess, and this Mpox thing is nothing new to many of us. I should say hello to everybody, I suppose, for the first time. Sunflower, first in the house tonight. Nice to have you in. I hope you had a lovely weekend. And last night, I was taking moon photos. I was actually thinking of you taking moon photos. Tell Rick not to get too worried. Well, I was thinking of you. The story is about the moon photos I was taking because we had a short live off the phone last night while I was trying to get some lovely moon shots. Had some atmospheric issues, bloody clouds. But I sat, I waited, I sat, I took photos. I took many photos. And some I thought were going to come out extremely well. None of them came out at all. Somehow the SIM card got damaged or won't read at any rate. So having a little bit of a play around with the show tonight to see a doctor it up. You saw a bit of an example of one of my images here at the front of the show. I sent that off to Vince as a mug idea. Maybe we could get that put on a mug if you're, or anything else, t-shirt. If you want to wear a black t-shirt, I think it would look all right on that. But if that's the kind of thing you'd wear, then let us know. Please email Vince at vofhq.com and say, hey, listen, that picture of Carl's is all right, the T-shirt idea or the mug idea, whatever you want to call it, and we'll get some made for you. I'm particularly proud of that one. I do have another image. I think I probably shared it with you. And I don't have it in the setup tonight to share it with you. I do have some other ones that I'll share with you a little later on. Aussie Sue first in the house tonight too. Can I just ask you, Sunflower, if you happen to have banned somebody called Kim Lim, can you unban them for me? I don't know if it was you guys or Vince or whoever, but Kim's a lovely lady, lives north of me here, and I arranged for her a little while ago. She was stuck. She needed to go to a hospital appointment on the sunny coast, so I was able to arrange for somebody to give her a lift up there from North Brisbane up there and back again. So she's a nice lady and has been a big supporter of mine and the show. So please, if you can, girls, if that's one of yous, I don't know, Kim Lim, I think she posts under, and somebody's obviously banned her for something. But look, at the end of the day, I don't mind critical comments. Doesn't affect me at all, and more the better. It makes for a better show, because sometimes the critical comments are required. I don't for 1 second believe that I've got, everything right, and I get it right all the time, and I don't think that for a moment. This is a very organic little show. It goes where and when it does, simply because of the restrictions at the moment that are being placed on me. That's going to change in the near future. We'll be hitting the road again shortly, and we'll be spending some time on the road. Hopefully there'll be a few of you who will come out and join us, tell a few stories, play a few games. Could be quite interesting. But a trip to far north Queensland is planned. We'll wait and see whether or not it all happens yet, but I'm pretty confident it's going to. I just want to be up there before it gets too hot. Cooktown, I am coming, I promise you. And I owe you some money for a plane ticket, so we'll sort that out. And then back down through Queensland again in the lead up to the federal election. Now, federal election, I beg your pardon, the Queensland state election. Now, I believe that there is great need for change, not just at a federal level, but at state level. If I had my way, we would be doing away with one level of government, but I don't think that's going to happen at the moment, at least until the people get some level of control. What level of government would you get rid of? I'd love to find out. Email me, carl@vofhq.com. If you had to get rid of one level of government, and maybe Vince, I don't know if you're watching tonight, he's probably involved in a My Place thing. He's pretty hooked up there at the moment. Maybe we can get some sort of a survey on the website at vofhq.com. I'm just shooting from the hip. But yeah, which way would you go with that? I'd be interested. Who else is in the house? Jack's in the house tonight. Dave O, hello, mate. Nice to see you in too. Thank you today, mate. I appreciate it. Harm, good hearing from you. I think I've got a text from you. I haven't read it yet. It's those days, mate. And without wanting to delve too deeply into the day, it probably looks a lot like this, I would say, is probably how you would best explain my day. Well, not the whole day, because it did start raining, I don't know, about lunchtime, which was a little bit annoying. Had planned to do a lot more work than that, but the day didn't quite go as planned, but got a little bit of it done. Just a little bit. There's my kit and bits and pieces. So the folks will be very happy when they come camping this part of the world. That's sort of what I started with. And this is basically cleanup piles that have already been put in place after the tornado came through at Christmas. So they've dried out now and pretty much been picked over by the campers who can take anything they like. However, if you want to cut it up, probably bring your own chainsaw or your own axe. So they've scavenged anything that they could carry out of it. So now it's looking more like that. And yeah, very flash indeed. I guess while we're doing round the camp things, it's been busy around here from this perspective. Yes, baby lambs. Lots and lots of baby lambs. And that one was the second of twins. when it eventually got birthed. Sorry, you were probably having dinner. I meant to warn you about that. My apologize. So there you go. That gives you a bit of an idea of what's been going on around here. Now, I just want to see. I don't want to leave out Pete from Pinaroo, because Pete from Pinaroo has also been playing birth mother. Well, not birth mother. What do you call them? Midwife. Little baby calf. How gorgeous is that? So congratulations, Pete. I'm sure you probably had one or two more. We'll get back to more pictures shortly, and there'll be something a little more than that. Hello, Barbara. Nice to have you in. Debs is in too. Who else? Indigoros. I think I've said that wrong. Forgotten Memories. How are you? Crunch. Good to have you in, dude. And Daniel, always in the house. Nice to have you in, mate. Always good. So Victoria are going to have high temperatures now. Well, I heard some rumor today. It must have been on the car at some point in the news that yes, there was a heat wave coming, threatening to end the snow season early. Okay. I think when does the snow season normally end? September, end of September. It wouldn't be the first time the Australian snow season has ended early, so let's not get too upset about all of that. Admittedly, the last few years, it's probably been bumper years, I guess, is the way you would describe snow in many parts of Australia. And it's hung around. It's been engineered to hang around. You might recall it was snowing Christmas Day a few years back on Mount Buffalo and Mount Buller. Why? Well, they wanted to keep that ice cap up there. They wanted to keep that melt. Have it melt when and, well, more particularly when they liked. Why? Well, it has to do with flooding. Remember Lake Eildon. Remember the Goulburn and the Murray Rivers. Remember the flooding that has gone on through there because of what? Well, that was snow melt. And how did they drag that flooding out for so long? And they have. By extending the snow season. Not the season exactly, just the snow. Maybe a bit of spraying around that too to harden the pack up on the bright days, you know. Anyway, now they're going to claim that through some bloody horror thing, the season's going to come to a close early. When I was a kid, you were lucky to have a season at the end of August. If there was anything left to ski on at the end of August, good luck. The first time my mum and dad ever took us to the snow, the only time my mum and dad ever took us to the snow, there was no snow. There's a couple of little patches of ice, but no snow. Very disappointing. Very disappointing. I had to wait for years. And then I embarrassed myself so much on one of the mountains I've never been back. Goes to see what sort of stupid things one does, really. I don't know where my readers are tonight, so I was looking for those before, but... Oh, hang on. Might not have too. Oh no, found them. Yes. So congratulations if you're a bit like Farmer Pete in Pinaroo, and the girls here, Cass and Samantha, who have a whole heap of animals. It's getting on to that time of the year where you're going to be giving birth. So good luck to everybody through that. We lost one of the lambs yesterday or overnight. We gained another one this morning. I think there are 6 in all now lambs. We've lost 2, and we lost a baby goat. But I guess nature has its way, doesn't it? And while every effort is made, if we find, particularly I think Cass's daughter Kiana at the moment has taken up feeding and nurturing these lambs that if they get sick or whatever, trying to keep them alive. We've only really had one that needed that sort of level of care, and it was a bit far gone. So unfortunately, it passed away. But yeah. Okay, Crunch. What are we talking about here? Iran has nuclear weapons. Israel won't allow Iran to strike Israel. It goes back to World War II for Israel. Yeah, I would say you are 100% right there, Crunch. The problem is Israel may not have much of a say in it. Why? Well, that dome, the Iron Dome of protection, the ones that the Iranians supposedly tested a little while back, drones over, the Americans to get involved from offshore to try and protect and shoot down as many of these things heading for Israel before they got there as they could. And then, of course, the Iron Dome has been put to very good use with that and since, with Hezbollah and associated others firing rockets back into Israel after what's going on in Gaza. I'm quite surprised that there's anybody left in Gaza, not just because of the way the Israelis are moving through there with every intention of killing anything that walks, crawls, or limps. I'm quite amazed that there's anybody left there, given the way and the state that the Australian government is taking in immigrants from Gaza. It is staggering at the moment, with very little checking. If you are a Palestinian and you want to come to Australia and you live in Gaza, hold your hand up. I wouldn't be surprised if the government's sending Qantas over there to pick you up. It is astounding. But that leads me into some of the things that I want to talk about tonight. You want to talk about astounding things. Immigration is exactly that. The number of migrants in Australia since the Albanese government rose to power has already exceeded the immigration target for the last financial year. The net migration intake from July 2023 to May 2024 was 425,510. That's well ahead of the 395,000 that Labor committed to in the budget. 27 months, Mr. Albanese has brought in more migrants than the entire Hawke-Keating years, which lasted 5 times longer at 156 months. The data also revealed almost 1/3 of Australians, that's 31%, were born overseas, a 9% increase to the 1983 figures. And of course, the Albanese government also recorded a whopping 62% more immigrants than the previous government. And I'll get that ticker off so you can read it. Where is the ticker? There's the ticker. 62% more migrants than the Rudd-Gillard term, who were the previous record holders, at a bit over 1 million migrants coming through. But these pricks will do that quite happily this coming financial year. I'm staggered by those numbers. Absolutely staggered by them. Our nation is being stolen. It is being diluted. And with it, all the Australian ideals that we grew up with. Why? Because they're swaying the population percentage. How do you fight something like that? Find a good woman and get her pregnant, and then stand by her and the children you have. That's important. Populate. We need to populate. Anyone who calls themselves a true blue dinky-die Aussie needs to populate. And I'm not being racist. The white ones need to do a lot more of it. A lot more of it. But when increasingly I talk to young people today about, and even my own daughter, I would love to have a grandchild, but what sort of a world are you bringing those children into? And that's something that my daughter is particularly aware of. She's aware of, a lot of the darker sides of the world. So I don't think that I'm ever going to get a grandchild. However, there are kids in their 20s, late 20s, mid-20s, not so much kids, young adults, that now aren't having children at that age, instead are going off and not buying a shack somewhere. They're out to buy a 3-bedroom mansion that they can call home, that they'll both have to go and work for the rest of their lives to attempt to pay off unless something wonderful happens. And then, oh, kids are so expensive. Well, we'll have to try and squeeze them in. Can I make a suggestion, if that's the way that you think? Sell everything you own. Get a bus or a caravan, hit the road, and start making babies. And when you have those babies, take them with you. Educate them on the road. Homeschool them. Let them learn what Australia is really about. And you can teach them the truth, as we have been led to believe, your way. Not have them suffer through the indoctrination that is the education system today. I urge you to consider that as a realistic way forward. I have a sneaking suspicion the time is coming where being mobile might be very useful. There's a lot of things going down in the world, a lot of rumours about strange goings on. We have seen the market crash, but we've seen it survive that crash. So that must mean more to come. How many more trillions of dollars need to be lost? I watched, along with many of you, Sky's broadcast on Sunday morning to the White Hats. She raises many, many good points, many exceptional points. And I think she's nailed it spot on when she alluded to the fact that should the White Hat story be found out to be less than honourable, that the repercussions for that might be very serious. And anyone who doubts the conviction of her words need only go back through our war history and look at what both our allies and our opponents have said about going to war against Australians, having to fight Australians. Don't underestimate Australia. We bring a lot to the party, including a large selection of venomous snakes. Just saying. And spiders. You don't want to have a phobia about snakes or spiders if you're coming out to help me with the wood. That's something you don't want. You don't need. In fact, we can't use you if that's the case. I had somebody come up and offer the other day, and it was like, oh, yeah, love to help them. And a huntsman came out on a tree that we were standing beside, and that was the end of them. I said, oh, we're likely to see a few of those. Oh, I can't do that. Okay, all right. No worries. It's a sad day. CFMEU and our Labor government, Albanese bringing in hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of immigrants and doing exactly what's happening in the US with the illegal crossings over the border. They're funneling them into the states, and more particularly, I think, the electorates that Labor are weak in. And, of course, those people who are let in under the Labor laws think that, Labor are just the most wonderful people on earth. And why wouldn't you? I mean, you're allowed to come to this country. You're given a free rein to head to the head of the queue, a special queue of your own, no doubt at Centrelink, to make sure that we, the people here in Australia, pay for everything that these new immigrants need when they get to the country. And we're already, over 100,000 more than the budget said they were going to get for last year. That the level of immigration, and I have a friend who works in immigration, and I am told that the work level there has gone through the roof. So it's all rubber stamping. It's not checking. It's not deep checking. It's all very cursory and rubber stamp, bang, move on, next page, work out the in tray into the out tray. And that's the mentality that these people have, unfortunately, for the most part. Very sad. The CFMEU have enjoyed wonderful protection from the Labor Party for ever, I would go so far as to suggest. Now, they've been caught out, and if you haven't seen it, I would commend you go back a couple of weeks and have a look at a 60 Minutes story where they out the kind of things that the CFMEU get into. But bear in mind, the CFMEU are just the latest union to use such tactics. Every union who had any power at all, plus those groups that had power over the unions, exercised it ruthlessly, absolutely ruthlessly. That's what they do. And in return for being allowed to exercise that power ruthlessly, the Labor government has assured them, or they've assured the Labor government, that everybody in the CFMEU will vote for you. And they're right. For the most part. Now, when I was driving limos, I used to pick a lot of FIFO guys up, guys flying in and out of different parts of Queensland, different parts of Western Australia. And I was pretty vocal about CFMEU at the time because they were very vocal on the sites, and I was hearing some complaints from people and yada, 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 yada. And I had 6 blokes in the van with me one night, taking them all home after a swing. And they were talking about how a CFME union rep had been on site that day and had been reading them all the riot act, telling them who to vote for. There was a federal election coming up and they wanted to vote for that red-headed clown who I think got kicked before the election with memory, and they put Crud back in. At any rate, that's what the union delegate, and he was threatening people with it, standing over them with it. And there wasn't one fella in that bus, that little van, that was going to vote for the red-headed clown. They were all going to vote the other way, which we thought at the time was a good thing, but then we got Turnbull. Just worse than Gillard, but there you go. Now, why is that? Why are blokes who are blue-collar, blue through and through, and would ordinarily be staunch union, why are they walking away? Well, that's because the Labor Party has lost sight of its core audience, its core demographic. It's always been the blue-collar worker. Well, now the blue worker isn't quite as blue as it used to be. 6-figure salaries, and not low 6, but mid to high 6-figure salaries, depending on the skill level that they have, of course. Now, some of those might be working a sweetheart shift, a 2 and 2. Some working a 2 and 1. Some might be working a 3 and 1. You really don't want to be working a 3 and 1 if you can help it. And you definitely don't want to be working a 4 and 2 or a 4 and 1. They're Widowmaker swings, they're called. Now, what happens when you come home? Well, you come home to the wife who's really wants you to do some husbanding, look after the kids for a while. And where are the kids? Well, the kids are at a good school. They're not at the local high school. They're at the local private school. And that's cool. You can take the kids to school and pick them up. That's fine. No worries at all. And then on the weekends, you'll probably want to go out in the boat or the jet skis with the kids and have a bit of fun. You might want to take the boat out with a few mates and do a bit of fishing. You might be into cars. So you spend your time tinkering and, putting a new blower on your, Ford or Holden in the shed. All of it costs a lot of good money. And then when holidays come and everybody says, okay, let's go away for a family holiday. Well, it's not like you're just slipping off to a little quiet coastal town, Portland or Port Fairy or somewhere, Yamba. No, these days, you, the missus and the kids are going overseas. You're going to go to New Zealand. You're going to go to Fiji. You're going to go to Europe if you can afford it, or America. That's the big difference between Labor voters in the past and who Labor perceive of their voters today. All of those people have now got big mortgages, private schools, fees, toys, lots of toys, lots of mates, lots of beers to be drunk. And all Labor want to do is take it off them, screw it up, bring in cheap workers. So the CFMEU and other unions are losing their flavour, particularly in the mines. And right now, I believe that one of the unions is playing all hell in Western Australia, in the Pilbara particularly. And it won't be hard to guess which one that'll be. I'm not going to because I don't know for sure, but I'd be 99% sure it'll be the one we're talking about. It may not, so apologies if that is the case. But the greed, and I've seen this firsthand, and it stays in them for life. The greed, when they have something to hold over government, they see themselves as taking the money from government, not from us. But governments don't make money. The only money governments have is the money they take from us in taxes and fees. Fees is a good one. How many government fees have you got to pay every year? How many thousands of dollars a year, from car registration to just about every other friggin' thing, gun registration, licensing, how many thousands of dollars a year do you pay off your already taxed income so that a computer can change a figure? It's pathetic, beyond pathetic, woeful. And it has to change. And I believe it is changing. Why do I think it's changing? Well, there's been some interesting things coming out about the quantum financial system. There's been quite a lot of, and I haven't seen anything from QSI, but there has been quite a lot of conversations surrounding an imminent date in September. You can probably figure that one out for yourself. There's a lot of talk about the next 10 days or so being very eye-opening. The EBS is back in the in the rumour mill again, and all, well, you know me and that. But anyway, this rather interesting thing popped up, and I thought you might be interested in seeing it. It came from Jack Straw, and they are the account guidelines for the quantum financial system. So, number one, individual accounts only. Your QFS account is solely for your personal use. It is not a joint account with your spouse, children, or parents. Further details will be provided once available. Number two, parental access for minors. Parents cannot access their children's QFS account except under specific circumstances. However, if a parent, child, or spouse requires care and cannot access their own account, provisions will be made. Number three, age requirements. There is no age requirement to be 21 to access your QFS account. I don't know what that means. There is no requirement to be 21. Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So there is no age requirement. Individuals as young as 18 can access their, well, so there is. The requirement is 18. So you must be 18 to access your funds, especially if they're planning to move out or get married or something like that. Number 4, account discovery. Through the emergency broadcast system, you'll be informed about your QFS account, which has accrued interest based on your birth certificate, resulting in substantial funds. Funds transfers. Funds from your current bank and credit union accounts will be transferred to your QFS account once you have access. Number 6, support for the homeless individuals. Homeless individuals should be notified early so they can visit designated locations to access their QFS accounts using a temporary address, enabling them to secure housing and restart their lives. Number 7, just on number 6, there are many homeless people suffering mental health problems. Giving them a home isn't necessarily going to fix the problem. I would hope, and certainly I know that QSI have put some thought into these sorts of programs once the quantum financial system takes hold. We need to go back to having facilities to care for mental health patients. The current system is woefully inadequate, is being abused by those entrusted with caring with some of our most vulnerable in the community. I know that because I've seen it firsthand. In this, it is the bureaucracy behind it and the health department, the politicians behind it. It is being abused. As horrible as the thought of mental asylums is, once something needs to be created. Now, we have aged care facilities. Nobody has a problem with that. Well, do you know what's happening with aged care facilities at the moment? In Brisbane, 3 of them have been taken over, are being used to house homeless. Now, why aren't we building mental health facilities? In the short term, while something more suitable is built. And more to the point, how many of them need to be built? Ipswich, in the southeast corner of Queensland, suburb of Brisbane, if you like, out between Brisbane and Toowoomba, used to be the home of the mental health asylums for Queensland. And I can testify that those buildings were pretty horrific to look at. I reckon they were probably built back in the early 1900s, if not the 1800s. And yes, at times, on certain days, you could hear things coming out of them. Because there were some very sick people inside. Very sick people. People too sick to stand trial, which is essentially what's going to happen, I believe. Allegedly murdered her daughter on the Gold Coast a week or so ago. Slit her throat. At this point in time, that lady will never face a trial because she needs mental health support. So, okay, she will now be locked up in one of our hospitals because certain hospitals in Queensland are now the mental health wards. There probably is a secure, I'd hesitate to call it a ward, but maybe there is a secure area inside the jails. But is that offering mental health support services or anything like that? I mean, I don't think it will be in the jail, because what would be the point of pleading insanity? Because you're going to wind up in the same place. It's not like you're going to go to Shady Acres and be allowed outside to sit on the bench in the sun every day. Whereas that's because there is no Shady Acres unless it's privately paid for. And if you're going to one of those privately paid for and owned places, then you've got a lot more money in your bank account than I have in mine. And good luck to you. Might be just what you need. The fact is, there are many people who don't have that sort of money in their bank account, and they need it just as badly as you, or in some cases more. So I would hope, and I'm pretty sure, that the folks from QSI will be all over this, because it is one of the largest areas in our health system that has been given the least amount of assistance, financial support and aid to be able to function at any reasonable level. So some of the humanitarian projects, and if it is true that a $100 trillion Zimbabwean note will only be allowed to be used to fund humanitarian projects, then I vote to put some of my Zimbabwean $100 trillion note into mental health facilities where these people can come off the street, can get the help that they need, or can be safe and secure in their environment. Not a threat to themselves, not a threat to anybody else. We have to start looking after these people. We can't ignore them any longer. Many of us walk past them in the streets every day. Many of us don't. Whether it's to stop and throw a few coins in, ask how their day's going. But I urge you, if you happen to see somebody sitting on a street corner tomorrow holding a sign out asking for money, before you put something in their tin, sit down and ask them to tell you their story. You might find it very interesting. So, okay, been all over the place like a mad woman's, well, you know what, tonight. So let me just see where I'm up to. Okay, Camilo's got a show happening. We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, I want to say. This is coming up September 7th and 8th at the beautiful Ndabi farm at Yandina. Beautiful natural land to connect with nature and friends. There's a walking track with owner Uncle Tyus, who will teach the bit of bush tucker and a guide around through the sacred sites there. There's a yarning and music circle around the campsite Saturday night. You can sleep under the stars. There are canopies or tents, or you can sleep in the luxury of your own camper if you so decide. There is a long drop loo and a cold shower available. Always nice. Bring food to share and to cook on a campfire. Great combination. And if you have a musical instrument, bring it. By all means, small camping fee will apply. And Camilo will bring me those details as soon as he actually has them. But if you would like to go to this event, Yandina, of course, on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, then 0413 598. That'll be Martine's phone, and give her a call and tell her you would like to be along to that one. I think it'll be quite spectacular, actually. Quite spectacular. I reckon I've got most of... I think I've got most of that out, of the things I was going to show you. Whoops, wrong button. Let me see what else I've got down the bottom here. There were a couple of videos I was going to mention. Oh, look, there, yeah. Here's something you should know from the UN.
In recent weeks, the polio virus has been detected in wastewater samples in Khan Yunis and Deir al-Balah. That means the virus is now circulated with hundreds of thousands of children in Gaza at risk. Polio does not care about dividing lines, and polio does not wait. Preventing and containing the spread of polio will take a massive, coordinated, and urgent effort. I am appealing to all parties to provide concrete assurances right away guaranteeing humanitarian pauses for the campaign. Let's be clear. The ultimate vaccine for polio is peace and an immediate humanitarian ceasefire. But in any case, a polio pause is a must. It is impossible to conduct a polio vaccination campaign with war raging all over.
Did you remember what I said about where our new influx of migrants is coming from? Gaza. Apparently fully infested with polio. How long before we see a polio warning here in Australia? How long before there's an outbreak? Because at the rate we're accepting people from Gaza, there'll be nobody left in Gaza. They'll be all here. This is the level of abject stupidity we have running the country. Nearly said the company. Well, it is a company at the end of the day, isn't it? And we expect the company to deliver better results to us, the shareholders of that company. But the problem is, you and I, we're not shareholders of the company that is running the country. The WEF, the UN, the WHO, they're all shareholders in that. But we, the people, are not. Never, ever forget that. So it's all well and good to complain about what the bastards are doing, but until somebody like you stands up and can unite people behind you and get elected to change shit like this, nothing's going to happen. Are you prepared to do that? Do you know someone you would be prepared to support doing that? Well, if that's the case, reach out to them and ask. If it's you, if you're prepared to stand up for your community, even better. Is there a group of people around you who would support you in that endeavor? Because, while some of us have the best intentions in these things, we may have no skills or abilities, and we need help in that regard. Well, you never know who might be in your community, who might think along similar lines to the way we do. At least someone who is awake enough to know that the bullshit that goes on with our leaders in Canberra cannot continue. It can't. Why can't it? Because blind Freddie, unlike the brainwashed percentage of the country who has no idea, blind Freddie can see we're being set up by this corporate government to be used as batteries, to work, to generate income, to give it to the government, to have the government take it off us in so many other ways. One tax after another. Would you be a person who would stand up for a 2% tax like Ricardo was putting forward? Or even a 3% tax to give the country a buffer? Put some money in the bank. Is that something you would support? Is that something you would base a campaign on? And a group of like-minded people like you? What about immigration? Involves building a train line or more. But we need people to stand up and talk. We need people to stand up and come together to say we have had enough. We will not allow this kind of bullshit to continue from those that claim to represent the people when in fact work for a foreign entity and are fucking us. It has to end. Enough of my little rant for tonight. I think I may have had something else to show you. The video I'm going to play you now is based around the US, but I believe something similar happens here in Australia. Maybe not to the extent of what I believe, particularly in the last few years, that it's going this way.
The states are taking children, giving them to somebody else for money that they get from the federal government. That means that all 50 states are involved.
Maybe that's the good Lord telling me I'm not doing the right thing. Try again.
The states are taking children, giving them to somebody else for money that they get from the federal government. That means that all 50 states are involved in government subsidized child trafficking. It's a ring. It is the largest and most pervasive child trafficking ring in the history of the world by sheer money and numbers.
Children are seized unnecessarily from their families due to the federal aid entitled the Adoption and Safe Families Act.
It was put into law in 1997 by Bill and Hillary Clinton, and I said it that way on purpose. And it is a law that literally steals money from the Social Security Fund and gives this money to the states in order to incentivize them to kidnap babies.
To receive the adoption incentives or bonuses, local CPS must have more children. They must have more merchandise to sell.
Every child, once you've added it all up, is worth approximately $1 million to the state. But we've been told that this is a 60 to $80 billion a year industry, meaning the federal government is taking $80 billion a year and giving that money to all of the 50 states to kidnap children.
Parents are victimized by the system that makes a profit for holding children longer and bonuses for not returning children to their parents.
But their own statistics state that 83% of all children who are taken by CPS, Child Protective Services, are for unsubstantiated allegations, meaning never should it have happened in the first place. So that imagine anything else in the world where you know you get it wrong 83% of the time and you admit it, but you just keep doing it.
Case workers and social workers are often guilty of fraud. They withhold and destroy evidence.
Yep. Everybody, I think everybody knows someone who's been touched in Australia by these bastards, these child stealers. And I don't think that our story is too different to what's going on in America. If you find that just disgusting, and if you find the fact that our Australian system is so absolutely corrupted, our politicians guilty of all sorts of treasonous crimes against us, not all politicians maybe, but certainly the leaders and the main parties, there is a safe haven that we can go to. Now, you may not be aware, but Vladimir Putin has issued an invitation. I won't, it's not there. You've got to watch the story, but I won't play it because that would be a breach. However, if you would like to escape all this left-tard bullshit, you can go to Russia. They will welcome you. You don't have to know the language. You'll find it bloody hard to order a potato, but you don't have to know the language. There's quite a few different things you won't have to do. They'll just be very happy to have you as you want to keep your sanity as the West quietly goes. Well, it won't go quietly. It'll go with a very large bang. Insane. Now, my only question is, do some making up here. I'm thinking the Aussie Cossack is going to become the Russian immigration minister for Australians wishing to go to Russia. And if he's not now, that could well be his designation before the end of the week, because there's probably going to be quite a lot of Aussies who are going to say, shit, Russia doesn't sound that bad compared to what we're putting up with here right now and what they are planning for us in the future, and in the near future at that. I believe 15-minute cities, total surveillance, total observation, digital ID, total control over every aspect of your life. But not in Russia. I wonder if the Aussie Cossacks still got the same phone number. Just saying. Have yourself a great night, folks. Don't go out and do anything weird. I know the moon was full last night and weird shit has happened around here today like you wouldn't believe. Today has had its moments, I'll be honest with you. We've also had some good moments. We lost a goat today. That was rather unexpected and swift. I'll leave it at that. We have a goose who has, well, we have 8 geese, but we have a goose that has taken over a wood pile and decided to lay her eggs in there. And so today I've set up a fragile tape, because that's all I had, some fragile tape, and I set up a little CCTV camera so we can make sure that people don't go near them. Because apparently, who knew this? I guess you do when you start living in a community. Everybody knows a little bit about something. Pardon me, I know nothing about geese. Turns out somebody here knows something about geese. And when they go and lay, you can't disturb them. Otherwise, they'll walk off the eggs and won't come back to them, and that'll be the end of that. So I had to be a little bit delicate around the goose today. She was getting a tad upset with me, and there were a few of her friends coming over for protection, but I think they figured out I wasn't going to disturb her on the nest at all. So all that's well. I'm looking forward to seeing what the goslings look like. And yeah, that leads me to the next question. Foxes. Gonna have to keep a bit of an eye out for foxes. I've got a slingshot. Might see how that goes. In fact, boy, are there some slingshot rifle things available on the market right now. There is an air rifle. There's a 50 caliber air rifle. Staggering. But there is also these slingshots that you sort of stand on to raise up, and they're like a rifle, apparently extremely accurate. And boy, I didn't know a slingshot could do that sort of damage, but apparently very capable. I don't know how a slingshot chat, but mine, nothing like that, and I couldn't hit the side of a barn with it anyway, so who knows, folks. If it's not the dickheads on the road that gets me, I might have to go to Russia after all. Have a good night.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!